If India becomes truly successful, the United States will try to weaken it just like it did with Russia and now does with China. This is the stark warning given by economist Jeffrey Sachs in a podcast with Tucker Carlson. During the wide-ranging interview, Sachs was talking about the Russia-Ukraine issue and said that the US endgame was just to weaken Russia. When asked why US wanted to weaken Russia considering they didn't seem to have a problem with India, Sachs said that US would do that also at some point if India truly grew. Basically, he made the point that America challenges rising powers to maintain their own hegemony. Expanding on his point, during which he tried to give a look at the US modus operandi, he said that in the early 2000s, the US relationship with China was just normal and they had good business ties with China. Now China is an affront to US ability to dictate circumstances in Asia. Any big power will generate a reaction from the US. What US has against Russia is that Russia is big and powerful. For that reason alone, the US would oppose Russia just like they opposed China. US makes up stories about why they oppose big powers, but it's actually because they threaten their dominance. US wants to be the unrivaled number one across the globe. Sachs had warned India against becoming a pawn in America's geopolitical rivalry with China and said that India should maintain balanced relations with all global powers, including China and Russia. He cited America's record of abandoning allies when convenient, saying that friendship with the US can be dangerous. In an earlier speech, Sachs had reiterated a similar point, saying that China's big mistake vis-a-vis the US was just that they were too successful.
I'm basically of the view that China's big mistake vis-a-vis the United States was to be too successful. And that China has not done anything, in my view, and I mean anything, other than what a normal major country would do to provoke the kinds of reactions and attitudes from the United States. That what happened in the US was that with China's rise, starting around 2014, in a very methodical way, the United States came to view China as not only a rival, but therefore as an adversary, because it was a rival in scale, in success, in technology. And what the United States wanted was primacy or hegemony or unipolarity. And that all of what has happened is basically an American reaction to China's success. If you want to see that very well documented, I'm sure many of you know the paper, but there's a very, very clear, vivid explanation of American foreign policy in a paper in 2015 for the Council on Foreign Relations by Robert Blackwell and Ashley Tellis, called something like a grand strategy towards China, or a revised grand strategy towards China. And it spells out in completely vivid terms what has ensued for the past decade. Because what Blackwell, who was my colleague at Harvard for many years and a friend and a very smart person, but I disagree with him on the most basic point. What he writes in that 2015 paper is that America's grand strategy is primacy, and China's rise is therefore no longer in America's interest. This is an astounding idea. It's basically the idea that success elsewhere is disadvantageous for the United States. If you take that view, you are bound to live in a world of nonstop conflict. If the advances of other places are to your detriment simply because they are advances, you are condemned to view the world in conflictual terms. But Blackwell says in the first sentences of this essay, America's grand strategy has always been to be number one, and therefore China's rise is not in America's interest. And what he and his co-authors spell out is a list of 8 or 10 specific steps we should make trade arrangements that exclude China. This is extraordinary. This is what President Obama tried to do with TPP. We will have a trade arrangement in Asia without China. Duh. Sorry. Look at a map. Look at some data. This is not a good idea. And the list goes on. Build up the military around China's perimeter. Not a good idea for peace. Put on barriers to export of technology. I'm talking about 2015. This already started 10 years ago. And what's very interesting about the Council on Foreign Relations documents is that they are not statements of views, they are explanations for the community of the Council of U.S. policy. So this was not a view of Blackwell, what should be done. This was a description of what American policy would be. And it's been carried out pretty much systematically since then. So if you point these things out, you're viewed as a little bit impolite in Washington. So my lack of welcome to Washington goes back many years. But I can tell you the feeling is reciprocated. I don't even want to go to Washington, so I don't, except on very rare occasions, because there's nothing to do there. It's not constructive. You're not going to find answers. There's no one really to talk to. When it comes to trade, I don't have to say more than Trump is uniting the world because there is not a single place in the world that is satisfied with this new tariff regime, including inside the United States. It has succeeded in stopping the stock market rally and reversing it. It has succeeded in lowering automobile company share prices yesterday. I didn't check today, but down 5% yesterday when the automotive tariffs were issued. It's a completely ignorant economic policy as far as I'm concerned. We can talk about it, but I see no merit whatsoever on any count to the protectionism that Trump is trying to bring about. So there, the whole world is unhappy about it. And then when it comes to Asia, we'll discuss this, probably Trump and the administration probably want to avoid open conflict with China. Whether they are clever enough to do so, I'm not sure, but there'll be a lot of noise and instability. I'll make a prediction that is clear and therefore could be completely proved wrong soon. I don't believe there will be any grand bargain or any great agreement between the United States and China on anything for years to come, because I think the U.S. administration is too unstable for anything like that, because any serious agreements require consideration and strategy. I, for one, don't believe that we have any of that in Washington now. I think we have improvisation, no role of Congress, basically a one-man show, executive orders, mostly illegal, court challenges that are proliferating by the day. So I think it's a mess, not a strategy.